The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this TestStudio webinar. We're just waiting for some of the registrants to show up. So let us wait a minute or so more, and we are going to start. Thank you very much, and we'll be back in 60 seconds. All right, thank you very much for your time. Before we start this weekly webinar, I would kindly ask you to raise your hand in your GoToWebinar panel. You should see a hand icon. So I would ask you to raise your hand if you can hear me or see my screen. All right, thank you very much. I see that hands are up. So we shouldn't have any audio or video issues, and we can kick this off. Thank you very much and welcome. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on which part of the world you join this TestStudio weekly webinar. For the ones of you who were with us last week, you already know that we're resuming our weekly TestStudio webinar series, starting with the month of April. The first one was last week when we saw some general tips and tricks about our tool. Then we resume with a more demo-oriented troubleshooting session. And next week we are proceeding with our release webinar. Before we start this session, let me do some introduction here. My name is Peter. I'm a sales engineer for Telerik, specializing in TestStudio team. I'm also a certified professional Scrum Master and Prince2 practitioner. At some point of time, we might be joined by my colleague Andrew Wieland. So stay tuned for that as well. Some housekeeping infrastructure rules for the webinar. As you know, yes, this session is recorded and will be made available on demand if you wish to keep it or redistribute it among your teams. All of you guys are muted, so we can't hear you. If you have any questions, please use the questions panel on your GoToMeeting software, and my colleague or I will make sure to answer all the questions on the go. If not, we can follow up after the webinar, depending on the time that we have. Thank you very much for that. Just a little brief what we covered last time and why am I showing you this again. Because we realized that although we try to separate all of these series into different topics, actually they blend. In order to use TestStudio at its full 100% capacity, you need to engage most of the tips and tricks that we showed you, the advanced troubleshooting guides, that we're going to show you today, and also the upcoming topics like data driving your tests or configuring your and scheduling your test lists, using the reporting section and the dashboard. That's why everything is mixed, if I am to say like that. And that's why I'm going to remind you what we covered. You are going to see part of it today as well, and so on and so forth. So last time, me and my colleague showed you guys the element highlighter and how you can work with every single element in the DOM, whether it's by creating advanced verification or wait or extraction steps, or building steps from scratch with the help of the test builder. We also showed you how you can do advanced test runs, whether it's by placing breakpoints during recording in order to troubleshoot live, or by checking the failure details with a single click, again, in order to troubleshoot or debug live during your session, during your execution session, in order to spare time and not start the test every time you want to check it or debug it. Right. We also showed you some tips and tricks like building tests as step, which allow you to more easily maintain your tests and reuse parts of one test among other tests, like the simple login test step, which you can reuse in unlimited number of other tests, right? We also discussed the base URL notion, which allows you to automate simultaneously your different environments, whether it's testing, staging, pre-production, production, whatever number of environments you might have. And all of this was summarized in a beautiful demo. Today's agenda, we have only one. I was really wondering what to place here, because we only had one bullet and one point, and it was troubleshooting, right? Tips and tricks, of course, and whether it's going to be boring or it's going to be useful, it's up to every single one of us during our daily work. Sometimes we can troubleshoot our tests and we can solve everything in 1 minute, or sometimes it can take hours in order to complete this. That's why this session, I really hope that it would be helpful for you with the guidance, advice, and tips that we're going to provide you, of course. And still, of course, we do have a real agenda for today's session. What I would try to show you today, guys, is a scenario how to automate a dynamic grid. We are going to use one of Telerik's Kendo grids for this example. I'm also going to show you how to, actually it's related to automation of such complex grids, dynamic grids, but I'm going to show you how to create chain defined expressions in these regards. Then I really hope we would have time to go over a simple application that we found, which simulates a canvas element. You know, it's a pretty common scenario, I would say, especially on desktop applications, WPF applications, for example, to have one canvas with elements inside which you should be able to automate, and which you will see that it's not actually that easy to accomplish. And here, actually, our one of our latest additions, the image-based element identification, will come in handy. Will kick in and show you how it could be quite useful, especially for verifications of actions within the canvas element. Right. Duration, we have allocated 1 hour for this session. I'm trying a totally different approach now. I'm really going to troubleshoot live as if we are working today. The session is not rigged. It's not something that we created in advance to show you that it works beautifully. It means that we could finish either very quickly and we can go to Q&A session, or we can go way over this 1 hour session, which means that we might stop and continue, of course, with another webinar series. But I'll do my best to stay within the allocated time and still have time to answer any questions or concerns that you might have. And before we start, for the ones of you who were here last time, they already know that. But since we are in release mode, we just released our latest version of TestStudio R1 2020. I really want to spend a minute to show you with this slide what we have and what we offer. Again, a reminder, next week we are going to have a full-blown release webinar. So stay tuned and join, of course, at the times that you see on your screen, 11 a.m. Eastern and 5 o'clock in the afternoon Central European time. Quickly, in brief, the highlights of the new version. We improved, enhanced our executive dashboard. You know, the solution that allows you to share the health of your project, of your test lists throughout your organization with new reports and new visuals. And now you would be also able to create, review, and share custom reports with this regards. We also now support web components. For you who are familiar with web components as a notion, you should know that they heavily rely and use on the shadow DOM. It's really tricky when you have an element which is actually part of the shadow DOM and how it can be identified and automated. You will see with the help of the new version of TestStudio and during this release webinar. And by the way, just a note, Salesforce as a platform, they rely on web components. So whoever of you and our customers is developing on Salesforce platform, you can now very much more easily automate these applications with TestStudio. And of course, we are in the process of doing some UI and UX changes. Maybe you have already seen the ones that we did on the welcome screen, in the ribbon, in the Project Explorer, but of course, many more are to come. And last but not least, we updated our extensions for Firefox, Chrome, and Edge Chromium browsers, along with the numerous fixes that we introduced with this release. Now, what we're going to talk today are the 4 or 5 solutions to every problem, depending on how we want to define them. First, I'm going to show you how we are going to record a single simple test with the point-and-click recorder and execute it to see what's going on. Believe me, it would be very tricky in the case with the Canvas application, for example. That's why we need to go one step further and have a more advanced input by creating custom steps with the help of the step builder, like the verification steps, which we already showed you last time. This, however, might not do the job, and that's why position-based automation needs to kick in. I'm going to create a custom step from our advanced step builder, and I'm going to click on a specific position on the screen on my canvas, and then I'm going to try to verify that this action was performed thanks to our image-based find logic. Perhaps most of you know that now TestStudio allows a mix of attribute-based find logic for your elements, along with the image-based find logic. You can switch that on and off depending on the case you're working. But in the case with dynamic elements, like dynamic attributes, like IDs, it comes in handy. And also like in the example with the canvas that I'm going to show you. Then we're going to go over the failure details of a step. I'm going to show you how you can compare the expected versus actual image and how you can troubleshoot this in live mode with the recorder switched turned on, right, until we verify, hopefully, as I said, that this is a live session, until we verify that the issue is no more and that it's resolved. This example will revolve mainly on manipulation of the DOM tree and elements. Right. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip the following slide and just let you know that TestStudio allows you to modify elements globally in order to spare time, meaning that if I'm to change an element once, TestStudio will allow me to implement this among all the tests that use this element, meaning that I would spare a lot of time updating all of my tests with just a single click, as you can see here on the screenshot, right? And of course, something that I'm going to show you live. Right. With this set, it's a demo time. I'm going to pause my screen for a second. I already see that we have some questions. I'm going to pause my screen. In the meantime, I'm going to bring up TestStudio, answer the questions, and we start the demo. Stay tuned. All right. Thanks for your questions. I managed to answer all of them very quickly. Of course, we're going to follow up with some additional details. In the meantime, right, we also have a question about variables now. By the way, it's a live one. By the way, for variables, we are gonna have a specific series. I think it's the week after the webinar. If we have time now, I do my best to show it to you guys. But if not, please stay tuned for the session, which is going to be exactly 2 weeks from now. Right. Thank you very much. Now, on your screens, you see TestStudio, and before we start the show, I want to show you some settings, right? Which I did. First, with regards to the image-based element identification, please know that once you have a project, you need to go to Settings, to Element Images, and depending on the case, you might switch that on or off. Like here, for example, if I switch this off, TestStudio would not use element search on execution, right? Then let me just double check. Yep, everything is switched off. Then on the fight logic, I repeat this during all the demos I do. I repeat this during every webinar or presentations that we do. This is maybe the most important setting that you would have. And we can't advise you what to do because we don't know your applications. You know your applications best. But this is the default logic how we search and find an element and identify an element. Sorry. By priority, it's by ID, then it's by name, then it's by source, href, value, whatever, right? If you want, you can click on search by image first in order to search by images by default. If not, you can leave this like this and search by ID by default, or you can change priority like this, search by name first, or you can create a custom property add it, put it on top, and use it for identification in the following order, right? For the sake of this presentation, I'm going to delete this custom property that I created and leave ID by default and search by image first switched off. And also please make sure, especially for the ones who are existing Telerik customers, when you use TestStudio, to make sure that all the translators are switched on, so that it allows you to, so that this option allows you to bring up the advanced element highlighter functions that you would have. What is translator in brief? Think of it as an extension which opens up the element so that TestStudio can do advanced verification, something that I'm going to show you. Please make sure that this, depending on the technology you use, that all of them are switched on. Right, okay. With this set, I'm going to create a new web test. Now, also, by the way, this is very useful during the live troubleshooting session. I'm going to change the windows of TestStudio in order to have more or less real estate. I don't know if you're aware, but you can create custom views here or choose one of the ones that we have, but you will see how it is in real life. Right. Okay. So. Right. Gonna troubleshoot this grid. For my recording and execution, I'm using Chromium Edge only, and I'm going to use this grid. Luckily, I have it in my history, and there we go. Also, I have multiple monitors for this session, so I'll do my best to show you, if not both of the monitors, what's happening on one part of the monitor and what's happening on the other part. I'm going to do some live switching in the meantime, so stay tuned and note and mind this as well. What do we have here? We have a simple candle grid built with Telerik Suite, which allows you to do inline dynamic editing. Now I am in recording mode. I'm going to use the first step. Remember, there are 4 or 5 solutions to every problem. Now we are on the first step. We are using the point and click recorder in order to do our test. What I will do here is bring up TestStudio to my other screen so I can see what's happening and what's being recorded live. I'm going to click on edit button here on the aniseed syrup example of this table. I'm going to go to units in stock and change the value to 15. I'm going to update the value, right? Then, this is something we showed you last time. I'm going to switch our element highlighter so it can bring up the translators for the corresponding element and those advanced options, which you already remember should be some verification steps or wait steps, extraction steps, JavaScript events, mouse or scrolls, actions, whatever. In our case, I'm going to hover over aniseed syrup, find the element. I want to find this data cell only. As you can see, it's being highlighted on your screen. Then I'm going to verify that the cell text is aniseed syrup, right? I want to verify, then I'm going to units in stock value, which we just changed. I'm going to find this specific cell again, see? And from the quick steps, I'm going to verify that the value is 15, right? And then I want to make sure that I'm not in edit mode already. And I'm going to find the edit button element. Here it is. And I want to verify that the text that contains it is called edit. Right, cool. Again, very basic, very easy on your screens. You can see that all of my steps are captured. All of the images are captured. We're not using images yet for identification because we switched that off, but it doesn't mean that TestStudio does not capture all the images. They are here as you can see. This is what we recorded. Now I want to clean this test a little bit before we continue. We have the navigation step. We have the edit link click step. This is a drag and drop command, which exactly like the tabs that you click are captured by the recorder, but are totally unnecessary for your tests. So you can easily delete them or just switch them off. Then I have the action input value, and I have the update links, whatever, and then I have the verification step. Like the rule of thumb is that on every few action steps, you definitely need to have a verification step in order to make sure that everything goes smoothly and as expected with your tests. Right. Then what I'm going to do is go back into the recorder and try to simulate a dynamic change of the grid. This is an online demo, of course, and if I refresh the page, everything will be reset. That's why I'm going to pause the recording at the moment. So TestStudio is not capturing any steps at all. And I'm going to modify the grid as if it happens in real time. What I'm going to do is add a new record now. What are we gonna add? Ketchup. Yep, my favorite. I'm going to put a unit price of 12, and we have a lot of ketchups available, and I'm going to add this record. Okay, now we have four. Now the aniseed syrup is on the 4th row as opposed to being on the 3rd row when we started the tests. And let's see what TestStudio will do when we try to run the test and do the verifications, etc., etc., etc. I'm bringing back TestStudio on the screens. So for the ones that were with us last time, you already know the advanced recording options that we have. Whether it is run to here option, which allows you to execute a test with the recorder attached, right? Or run just selected steps. As I mentioned, I'm going to clear some real estate here so you can see everything. Clearing the desktop commands, cleaning this one. All right. Let's see what is going to happen. For some reason, I'm I saw that I actually recorded the steps that I didn't want to record. That's why I'm going to toggle them off up until add a new record. As you can see, this is why troubleshooting. You always need to make sure whether you are in recording mode or not. Currently, I'm not in a recording mode with element highlighter switched off, which would allow me to execute a given number of steps. Like this ones, I can do Shift and select, then right click, and I can execute the selected steps. Let's see what will happen and on which screen is TestStudio going to use. Yep, this one. All right, as you can see, those steps were executed pretty quickly. One of it failed. For the new ones of you who are not that much familiar with TestStudio and just opening a bracket, sorry for the advanced users, but I need to show this as well. You have the option of switching on annotations in order to slow down your test executions and see what's happening on the fly and on the go. That's why I will switch this annotation. The default speed is 400 milliseconds. And I'm going to select the tests in question again and run them one more time so you can see what's the difference. See, the annotations will appear on the screen in yellow, which will show you what's happening on the screen. And as you just saw, upon execution, because the grid was dynamically changed, we updated the row above IC0. So we updated the Chang row here. That's why our test failed. So what is the best approach here in order to start troubleshooting? First, think what the reason might be, like I showed you. See the execution. By the way, last time we showed you how to record videos from test list settings. When we go to test lists in a few more minutes, and when we switch to the other application, again, I'm going to show you how to record the video of TestStudio execution so that you can check it later on. So what actually happened here is that we updated another element because of the position-based find logic. My job is to start troubleshooting, and I'm going to start with the very first action step here, which is called edit link. Your first order of business is to double check whether or not you simulate video click. What is this option? By the way, this option can be switched on or off from the global project settings, but you can also change it for each of the steps in question. So in our case, it's very important to make sure that if it's necessary to simulate video click, it means that we really mirror the Windows API as if you're using the video computer mouse and click on the screen along with the desktop clicks that we do. So you need to switch it on in order to make sure that actually you do the action step, right? And I'm going to check this for all of my action steps, like the edit and update, and yeah, that's it. We only have it on two places, right? Then I had some false positives here because the value that I entered, 15, was not in my NEC0 Pro, but it was in the Chang row, right? That's why I will just start TestStudio up until here, this step, and see what's happening, right? Okay, yes. And let's see what we're gonna do now. This is exactly what I was hoping to happen. I was crossing fingers. As you can see, it's real troubleshooting mode. And now, after we switched on simulate real click, in order to make sure that this edit button is clicked, upon our execution, we are somewhere in search mode, which means that we clicked somewhere else. And let's see what happened within TestStudio. Right, we clicked edit, but we couldn't enter the value. You already know, if you click here, you will see the walk with the failure details. And on the images, you can see that instead of going and finding the aniseed syrup and changing the unit price, we clicked somewhere on the search field of the page. If this happens to you, it's especially valid when you have simulate real clicks option. Please make sure to go to the action step property, which is the click step here. By the way, again, in order to have more real estate, you can undock this, use it on your other screen, or change its position. But so for this action step, I would like to make sure that we click at the Windows center. As you saw in our case, the scroll to visible option was somewhere on top of the screen, right? That's why I'm going to change it to Windows center, right? Dock this thing and change it, and I'm pretty sure that I need to do the same for the other click step. As you can see, the scroll to visible type is again on the top. I would like to place it on the center of the page. I make sure that I don't have any more action steps. I have all the simulate real clicks switched on and scroll to visible type set to the Windows center. And I'm ready to execute my steps one more time up until here. Let me see what's happening on the other screen. Still in execution mode, as you can see. So what happened now is that we couldn't find the edit link. Let me see what's the deal here. Unable to locate the element of my expression. All right, yep. I had a mix. Yep. This is what happens in web troubleshooting mode when you have a lot of screens. Just give me a second in order to make sure that I have everything on the page. So TestStudio is going to be here, and the recorder is going to be here. All right, I'm going to give this one more try. Again, select the steps that I want to do, and let's see. TestStudio executes on my other screen now. I can show you what actually happened. What actually happened is that now we updated again aniseed syrup with the wrong value, and you can see here that on the failure step details we had a 13, 15 instead of 15 as a value. So From now on, what I want to show you, I'm sorry, I'm going to fast forward a little bit because I want to play with the Canvas application a little bit more. What I'm going to show you is I'm quickly going to simulate again, adding a new row because during our last execution, the table was refreshed, so we lost the position. But what I will show you quickly. Executing the steps. And go to the DOM in order to locate the element in question so that TestStudio recognize it every time. So finally, we have the real clicks, simulations, the scroll to visible at the center. TestStudio is working now, updating the table with the values, but not the correct ones. It failed. It's here, and as you see, my problem is that we're clicking this edit button here. You see it on the screen instead of this edit button here. How should I tell TestStudio to click exactly this edit button for the aniseed syrup, no matter where in the table it is, whether it's here, here, or somewhere in the bottom, for example? I need to go to my test in question and check the corresponding action step. We captured the entire DOM tree, as you already know, and you can manipulate this during recording modes. When you click on a step, the element in question is highlighted here in the elements tree, and by right-clicking, you can edit this element on the DOM. Right. And play a little bit with the find logic here. I'll do my best to have some more real estate so that I can show you what we mean. Okay, I don't need this one. I don't need the step builder neither at the moment. Cool. This is my element. As you can see in this table, it's fifth row in position as by the tag index itself, so it's not doing any good for us. How to find the element in the tree? Click on validate expression, right? And we're going, TestStudio is going to highlight the corresponding element for you, right? When you click on the element here, it is supposed to highlight it in the recorder because we're still in live recording mode, if you remember, right? So if I browse through the element trees, you should see those highlights here changing. Alternatively, for the ones who are more comfortable working with the DOMs directly, you can use it like this. You can use our highlighter. So I'm going to point it mouse hover over aniseed syrup. Our highlighter will kick in. Then I'm going to find the entire row, which is here, and from the actions menu, I can locate it in the DOM. Here it is, right? It was highlighted. I can copy it to clipboard or lead stack, for example, and then go to my test, to the find logic, search it, and find it, right? Here it is. TestStudio highlighted. Now I need to find its parent. I need to find this specific button. I need to find its parents in order to create a chained find expression, right? That's why I'm going to move one row above in this specific example. All right, let me just see where it is. I'm going to move one step up and then change the expression, fire the test, and make sure it's working. So I'm looking for this element, 14. Here it is. Let me bring it on the other screen. Right click on the element, click replace, and here it is. Then below, TestStudio will allow you to advance this parent and child find expression at the moment. For the sake of time, I'm going to fast forward and tell you that the best practice here, like in such grid, is to use inner text, which contains, as you can see, all the values, right? And what else do we have? And we have also a table row here as tag name, which will render our HTML path useless. Right here, I can either use isExactly in order to get all the values, or use the contains operator. I can change this to Chang only, right? Whenever you do such changes and manipulate the DOM, please always verify your expressions. As you can see here, even with this chained find expression, we managed to find the element by inner text and tag name. Right. However, remember that I'm still looking for the button which says edit, right? Let me switch off this highlighter because it's messing up. Oops. All right. That's why I'm going to create a new filter. And I'm going to find my edit button, which has the properties of text content equal to edit. Right? I'm going to find this one. And then I'm going to enter text content equal to edit. So now we have a pretty strong find expression, chained find expression, with in order to locate our elements. So now what you need to do is click on the validate expression button, which is here, and yep, TestStudio was able to locate your element. So in brief, this was an example how to create such complex find expression. Actually, for this specific example, it was not that complex, but I hope you got the idea how to do it in order to locate an element in dynamic environments like these ones. What I would suggest as a next step to do is try to verify the specific step if it will work or not. So let me bring up some more real estate one more time. I don't need this. Don't need this. Okay. You are in the element. Please save it every time you do it. As you can see, remember we were talking about saving time and easier maintenance. This element, all the changes will be applied among the tests that you wish to be used, right? Okay. Perfect. Now I need to go to my grid. and see what's going on. Right, this would be the last example for the grid. We still have 10 minutes or so. I'm going to switch off to the Canvas app in order to show you some position-based automation, right? And then we will move on. And closing the webinar. As you can see now, we have the action steps executing. We're not finding any seed syrup. The thing that we did for the Chang should be changed and reapplied for the aniseed row so that you can have a successful test run. All right. So with this set, I'm going to create a new test. Now, code Canvas, fire it up quickly. And see what we have here. Let's see. Maybe my recorder didn't fire up the first time. Yeah, apologies for that. Here it is. So we have this basic Canvas element which contains buttons inside it. Note what's going to happen. We have the navigation step, and then I'm going to click on this little self-motivation chain in order to extend it. Right. What happens is that the corresponding automation software, like in this case TestStudio, will record only the click. Remember, we don't need the drag and drop. Will record only the click, this text in Canvas tag, right? Only one step, no matter how many times I clicked within this Canvas. I'm going to run this to here. And the test will be positive, but it's a very good example of doing false positive tests. As you can see, we fire up the Canvas. No clicks were recorded, were executed. Sorry. If I go back to TestStudio, you will see that everything was successful, but actually nothing was successful because my buttons were not clicked. And here is where the actual fun begins. You have plenty of options, guys, to automate this. And I promise to allocate a separate session for this because it's a really good example of how you can use the mixture of position-based and image-based automation. But very quickly, with the remaining minutes, I can show you our step builder like this. Let me go back to the recorder because we are in live recording mode. So I'm switching the element highlighter. We have only one element on the screen, right? It's the canvas, right? I'm going to look at it in and the actions that I have are simple, right? I can't click in the button because it's not recognized. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over the canvas. I'm going to look at it in the DOM to see where it is, right? And I'm going to build a specific step from this option here, which is a build step. Now I need to have some more real estate like this. You can dock and dock the recorder, by the way, at any point of time and use it among other monitors. So I'm going to add mouse action, which is left click, and it's going to be at a specific point, right? As you can see now, I have the pointer I can move it to this specific button. Make sure I click on that. Make sure that I have the correct coordinates and add this step, right? The step is added. If we go back to TestStudio, we will see that we have a desktop command on the canvas tag, and you can see from the properties of this step here the offset that is currently configured, right? Okay, I'm going to minimize this and I will execute and see what's happening now. Okay, let's see what we have here. Oops, I'm still in recording mode. So I want to change this. What we have here is that we really did the desktop command based on the coordinates, but for some reason it again was not clicked. So I need to troubleshoot this one more time. You already know how to do that. I'm going to run only the specific steps. I need to simulate a real click first. Going to make sure it's all set. Let me run selected steps, see what happened. And it was reflected on the screen and clicked. Right. This was the easy part. Now the difficult part is to make sure that you actually clicked on the button. So it means that you need to create a verification step in order to understand that this button appears on the screen. This, however, will take much more time, and I promise to continue these examples in another series of the webinar, where I'm going to create a custom image as part of this canvas and verify that this image appears on the screen after the corresponding click, right? As I said, it will take much more time in order to show you that. I mentioned at the beginning that it's a live troubleshooting mode, so we can't fake it. And with this said, I'm going to take a look at some of the questions now in order to make sure that we can answer all of them. If not, we will follow up offline. Again, for the ones of you who have any questions, concerns, or comments, we still have a minute or so to help you, so you know the drill. Right. I already see some questions, so I'm gonna answer them in the meantime. A confirmation about the variables. Yep, we're going to have a separate session. As you saw, we barely had any time finishing this one, so we promised to have a separate one for extraction and manipulation of variables. All right, I'm going to answer privately to the other questions. All right. Thank you very much. We're all set now. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. It was a little bit different from the other formats because it was a live troubleshooting mode. We will continue with such sessions towards the end of the month or beginning of May. So stay tuned and we'll be in touch. Thank you and bye-bye.